Yes, I have been taking notes. So the first piece is to, and as we're talking, I'm just grateful that you're kind of giving me the airtime to, like, I feel like in some respects I sometimes like will shepherd these ideas that I hear on business podcasts and, you know, entrepreneurial books and strategy, mindset, psychology things, and I like bringing them up in conversations like this because I think that it's things that don't get talked about from, you know, a mental models perspective, or, like I said, psychological things that people don't always think about in the industry. But because it is my industry, like, I totally understand why some of these things apply. So, you know, if anybody the things thinks that I'm parroting people's books just for the sake of it, it's because I really do think that these crossovers are where the magic can sometimes be. And I think you're noticing that too, as you're transitioning industries and dabbling in other things. Like, the experience you have as a chef actually can apply to guitar or hunting or, you know, like filling out a spreadsheet even. So the first thing that stood out was Jason Fried has this company called Basecamp. I think he's also out of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. And he has this thing that he talks about, the difference between hard work and challenging work. Have you heard that rant before?
I have not.
So he talks about, like, you know, in the tech startup space, there's like this idea that, oh, we work so hard, we work 80 hours a week. And he's like, we don't actually work hard. Like, we sit at a desk and we like input some data and we have some meetings and we, you know, build features and we code some stuff, but it's not hard work. Hard work is like the person who, if you've ever seen like videos of people harvesting grapes for, you know, during wine season, like, you know, the prep cook who's like lifting the fucking huge stock pot and straining it over a big, you know, strainer, or like unpacking ingredients, or, you know, doing the deliveries. Like your delivery driver works hard, you know, but challenging work can be like emotionally draining. It can be like mentally exhausting. It can, you know, like cause you to really have to take a step back and be like, damn, I am like just like fatigued from doing this, but like it's not hard. And so I think that doesn't get talked about enough, because if, you know, you're wanting to be the hardest worker, you know, if you're a chef, you're actually not. Like, there's people who are doing harder work than you from the perspective of like backbreaking, like incredibly physically demanding. Like, yes, neither you nor I are saying being a chef is not hard work, but if you're saying that, like, you know, by taking a job at a desk or something that is a little bit more quote unquote challenging, that you're not working hard, or you're going to scoff at that, I would kind of like ask you to take a look in the mirror. If you're saying you're the hardest, you are a harder worker, I can actually point to people who are working harder than you. And then on the flip side, like, don't take challenging work and say that it's not also, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not actually difficult, because challenging can also be, you know, taxing, and on the positive end of that, it can be more rewarding, like, because you're putting more at risk, like you're potentially providing a lot of value, because if it's challenging, that means that the barrier to entry is there, because not a lot of people want or strive for challenges. And so as you're talking about some of those things, that similarity kind of came up for me, and I want people to ponder that in their own lives as they're thinking about, like, wearing this badge of honor of, you know, I work really hard, you know, or people that don't work like me aren't working hard, because if you're solving challenging problems, you're also doing great work. That was the first one. And the second thing was in relation to me. When I moved to Seattle, I was really thinking, like, I really want to do this media thing. And I came to terms with this, and I always would tell myself this in my moments of doubt. I would always tell myself, you can always go back. Like, you can always find another sous chef job. You can always, like, you know, send your resume out to people. And if they ask about a gap in your resume, it's only going to look good for you to say something along the lines of, like, after I left my last job, I had this thing that I really needed to try. It didn't go very well. And now I'm, like, more committed than ever to being in a professional kitchen, because that made me realize that like this is where I can succeed and this is where I can make a contribution and whatever. It's only going to make you look better because then that person is actually going to be able to relate to you on a more human level. And so as people are thinking about, can I leave? Should I leave? What happens if I leave? Play that out. You know, like what if you leave your job, what's going to happen? Like what is the worst case scenario? And for me at the time, it was like, you know, all my past colleagues are going to make fun of me. I'm never going to be able to get a job again. I'm going to lose my touch. Like I'm not going to be able to cook or season as well as I could in the past. My knife skills are going to get worse, blah, blah, blah. And then like you look at all of those on paper and it's like, I just realized that it's actually not all that true, or there was actions I could take to remedy them if needed. You know, like if I lost my touch with cooking, you know, like I could either just ramp up my cooking at home and like get back, you know, my touch a little bit more, or maybe I get my, you know, maybe I do get hired back again in a professional kitchen and then all of a sudden like my first week sucks, but then it's like riding a bike and I can just get back onto it. Cause I would think back of like, have there been any moments in my career where I've taken some time away from the kitchen? Yes. How long did it take me to get my feet back under me? Not very long. And so then you're kind of like dispelling all these myths and negative self-talk that you're telling yourself. So those two things really help me quite a bit. So in my notes of things suck right now, Ray, talk to me about the industry at large.
Yeah. So my focus on the industry really changed over the last few months. Whereas I think before I was really focused on world's 50 best or, you know, Michelin stars or, you know, and then transitioning into, you know, hot new restaurants or whatnot. But now it's more so kind of the bigger picture of what food means to people. And so, yes, there's like looking at my local food scene in Buffalo, New York and seeing really great establishments closing down. It's seeing, you know, what's happening in LA and seeing outdoor dining close. It's seeing the dramatic growth of people who are private chefs or meal prep businesses or, you know, online delivery businesses, you know, Grubhub or DoorDash or whatever is doing well. So the industry at large for me has been more so focused on like not just the niche that I feel like we kind of find ourselves in sometimes, but the bigger picture. And so I think, you know, I have no idea with the pandemic what's going to change per se, but I think the biggest thing, the thing I think is going to be big is obviously brand now, because everyone's being forced to get online. Everyone's being forced to get into ecosystems that they're not used to. And so it's a lot about like when you're scrolling through an app on DoorDash, for example, you know, obviously your name's going to need to be known. People are going to need to know who you are, because when they're hungry and they're going through that app, they're going to be hit with so much. If you don't stick with them, and it doesn't even have to be that you have the best food. We just have the best experience. If it doesn't stick with them, then they're not going to remember that after they've gone through this entire, like, you know, ads popping up of McDonald's or Chipotle or what have you. So I think that's a big thing, is going to be like really like big brand awareness, or just awareness of name. And it doesn't have to be anything special, but just getting yourself out there. I think industry wise that there's going to be a lot of people who transition into different roles in the industry. I mean, we're already seeing that already. And I think that is going to relate to a lot of, I don't know, I just see a lot of like cool content coming out now of like things I never would have thought of. Like I have a friend from school who's doing she's doing dinners, and it's called Devious Dinners. I haven't watched an episode yet, but she told me about it, and I just thought it was a cool concept. She's doing videos where she shows people how to cook, and she talks about true crime while doing that. And that's coming from, yeah, I thought it was a cool idea, and it's coming from kind of the idea of, not the idea, but you know, her maybe not working as much, so needing to fill gaps. So you're going to see a lot of new creative endeavors and whatnot. So that's what I'm seeing, and then you know, you're seeing these brand name chefs over the last few months having to close restaurants, and titans of the industry having to close restaurants. The biggest one was Tack Room, I think, was one that was like really like, wow, I'm surprised that closed.
Massive. Yep.
You know, being in New York, that You said
Oh,
I didn't. You kind of broke up.
oh, sorry. I
Were
said
you
that's
surprised with that
like
as well?
it was a massive closing. Like I didn't see it coming either.
Because they just opened.
Mm-hmm. Not
Yeah.
just did they just open, but like when I was working at French Laundry in 2013, yeah, 2012, 2013, they were R&D testing recipes for that restaurant. So it's like this has been a 8-year project in the works, and to have it close like so suddenly was fuck, man.
Yeah, it's sad, and I know like there's people who hate it on tap room, but no, it's sad to see any restaurant close. But what I do see is like I really see like these chefs going and leaning heavily into their brand name in regards to like Emerald has his like sauce lines on shelves in grocery store. Like grocery is like where many people are right now because dining's closed. So where are you going to get food from? It's a grocery store, or it's through a delivery app. I see like a lot of like an opportunity for people to create small businesses or businesses that revolve around jarred goods or like pickles or whatever, stuff that can be sold, a tangible product that can be sold and kept and like used over and over again, such as like a condiment or a sauce or a grill. So that's where I see it going, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it's cool, and I think it leads to a chef's getting into entrepreneurial businesses that maybe they wouldn't have ever thought of before.
And it's less reliant on the perishable food element of things to like that's what we make our money on. I think that's like I'm really really excited to see that as a shift in people's business models where 80% of our revenue comes from our sauce line in grocery stores, but we make kind of 20% of our revenue from people that come into our brick and mortar location and we get to serve them food out of it. So it almost flips where, there's a lot of places where like the restaurant is the cash cow in theory, even though it's not that profitable, but you call yourself profitable because the cookbook or the jam or the, chicken sauce makes enough money at a high enough profit margin where you can actually show that the company is profitable. Because I think that the positive cash flow and the increased profit margins allow for a lot more of the things that you and I want to see more of in the industry, from better lives for chefs, increased benefits, shorter work hours, all of these sorts of things. Semi in line with that,